Welcome everyone to episode 15 of Everyone Hates the Commissioner. We have a special Steelers fan and a special guest tonight with Steve and Dan as always. Steve, how you doing tonight?
Good. How are you doing, man?
Doing wonderful. Dan, you got your festive hat on. I got my ugly Miller Lite Christmas sweater on. Hell yeah.
Yeah, Steve said he was going to be doing some Miller Lite, so I think the sweater works.
Absolutely. Big fan.
Hell yeah. Well, I guess Steve, let's kind of dive into you and I right away a little bit. So do you remember how we first met?
I think actually when I first moved to Fond du Lac, I stopped at your bar that you were working at, and I had zero friends in the town, and I asked you if you knew of anything going on tonight. You looked me dead in the eyes, and you said, "Nope."
Yeah, but even though like you were hanging out and having some cocktails, and we had some obviously there's sports plastered all over the TVs, but we got talking football pretty much right away.
Right.
And found out you were a big Steelers fan, even though you're from Cincinnati, correct?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's a big point of contention for my growing up for sure.
Yeah. And then I remember thinking to myself, like, hey, this guy seems like a really cool dude. And he's new to town. Maybe I should like see if he wants to go grab a beer sometime. But then I started thinking to myself, that sounds kind of weird, just asking a random guy I don't know. I just thought that was a little odd, but it all came back around.
That's right. Winners find each other.
Yep. So anyways, you're from Cincinnati. Why don't you kind of talk about that a little bit, and then how you became a Steelers fan?
Yeah. So grew up in Cincinnati, Sycamore Aviators, go Avs, beat Mason. That's the rival there. We I guess growing up, I didn't know too much about football or nothing until I was 7 or 8, and then I met my stepmother, who's wonderful, Tracy Fro, name drop. But yeah, she's from Pittsburgh, Butler, true blue collar Steelers fan. I think the phrase still a fan. So she still has some of those Pittsburghese sayings that she still like throws around when she has a couple. So from that moment on, it was basically, well, you're a Steelers fan, right? I was like, well, yeah, absolutely. Right. So, and then it grows from there, and then you get your ass kicked at, in high school because you're a Steeler fan in Cincinnati. And, in 7th grade, you realize how much of a mistake that was, but I wasn't going back. And, I think it's aged pretty well as a decision,
Yeah. Hell yeah. I appreciate hearing things on football from the Pittsburgh side of you, especially because they have been around and have had so much success in the last 50 or so years. RIP, by the way, RIP to the great today, Wander Franco. Sorry, not Wander Franco. That's baseball. Jesus.
Franco Harris. Yeah. Well, and the funny thing about Franco Harris, right, growing up, who is this guy? When you land at the Pittsburgh airport and you walk and you go down to the baggage claim, down the escalators, there's 2 statues you see in Pittsburgh airport. And one of them is George Washington. We all know who he is. And the other one is Franco Harris picking up the Immaculate Reception down there. Right. So like could have been anybody. They picked Franco Harris. So, I mean, I feel for the city tonight for sure. I mean, he's a great guy. He's philanthropic. He's just a wonderful all around guy who represents the city. So it's terrible that he goes, but he had a great run for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. 50 years ago, I think to the day today was that reception. So yeah, crazy. So well, quick, what do you do for work for our international audience, Steve?
Yeah, overseas. I'm a logistics broker. So you need trucks from point A to point B. I'm the trusted, reliable guy that you call, and we knock down the prices and get everything delivered for you. So part of that supply chain bottleneck.
So if you need something delivered, everyone, call this guy.
There you go. Yeah.
There you go. Well, how about Dan? Why don't we start with you? It is Christmas in a couple days. So we were kind of talking a little bit before about visiting our grandmother, but do you have any other weekend plans?
No, I have not missed a single Christmas with grandma, so I'm going back to the hometown to see our grandma. And then obviously I'll see my mom, but with my sisters living on opposite ends of the country, it's going to be a pretty relaxing weekend. I'm actually taking off of work on Friday because none of my other leaders wanted to work this weekend, and I said that's okay. So I'm just going to head into work on Christmas Eve day, just make sure the building doesn't start on fire, but go see grandma and just have a nice relaxing day.
Is the gym closed on Sunday?
On Sunday it is, yeah. So we're open on Saturday, but we close for Christmas.
Nice. Well, Steve, what do you have going on? What do you got planned this weekend? You're coming back up this way, I hear.
Oh yeah. The impending blizzard and doom, which I'm very excited about. We're going to Ripon, Wisconsin. So that's where my fiance's family's from. Hey, giving me the thumbs down here. Go Tigers, right? Go Tigers. Yeah, no, it'll be great. We got some tractors up there, and we're kind of going to do some country bumpkin stuff. That's the kind of stuff I really like to do. So it's going to be wonderful. We're trying to build a snow fort for a 2-year-old. So I think there'll be enough snow.
History lesson for you. My hometown of Berlin, Wisconsin and Ripon, Wisconsin are the oldest rivals in the state. So Ripon, nope.
Can't do it. I've been to Berlin Conservation Club quite a few times, breaking some clays. That's another good spot up there. It's a beautiful part of the country. I think it's pretty underrated.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you come to the beautiful state of Wisconsin, you have to check out Green Lake County. Specifically Berlin, Wisconsin.
In the summer when the corn's up, all my Wisconsin friends rib me for that. But when the corn's up and you see those little yellow tassels at the top, man, that's probably when I feel my best. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Do good. Yeah, we're not. We got. Well, I'm gonna be out fighting in the snow. I'm thinking the next couple days here, but. Saturday we're making a 6-pound prime rib. I'm gonna kind of butterfly it open, and I'm gonna stuff it with some lobsters and some peppers in there, and put a rub over that and bake that fucker for a while. Looking forward to that.
Oh yeah.
And then we're gonna go spend some time with Monica's family next day, and then but yeah, should be a good weekend. I'm looking forward to it very much. So Steve, what are you drinking tonight?
So I said dump truck margarita earlier. I meant trash can margarita, but okay. the words always flow with me. But no, I just got a little Patron there with some triple sec and a lime just squeezed in there, and the trusty old Steelers yellow. So that's always good. I'll be making a switch to beer here pretty soon, but we'll figure it out.
I don't know if I'm sure there's gonna be a big surprise to everybody, but I've got my Basil Hayden's here. Everybody, we love the Basil Hayden's. Must be 21 or older to consume. Keep that in mind. But Dan,
I had to make a pit stop on the way here, so I'm just finishing my Chick-fil-A. So viewers out there, if you see me nibbling, I apologize.
All right. Well, one last thing before we start getting into some football. Any fantastic meals this last week that you've had or cooked? Anything that comes to mind that really stood out? Steve's thinking. Dan, I'll let you start. Anything that sticks out?
I have a plan for tomorrow because I'm taking off work Friday. Yesterday when I went outside to go to work, I had a package delivered. My mom had delivered a huge package of prime steaks for me. So I know you respect a good cut of beef. And then today, one of my employees actually brought in like a really cool like holiday marinade kit. And she's like, I hope you like steak. And I'm like, I just got a delivery of steak. So I will be making also some steaks tomorrow night.
Very nice. Steve?
Well, my birthday was on the 14th there. So
happy belated birthday.
Thank you. 30 is so real. Yeah. Carol made some really nice steaks and some mashed potatoes. She's lactose intolerant, so I always hate those potatoes. So she made me dairy potatoes, so that was pretty huge. And then the real butter on the steak always hits different. So that's that, or we had some apple cider glazed salmon last week. That was pretty dynamite.
That sounds really good too. I've done a couple New York strips this week. I have my week off, and I smoked 9-pound brisket overnight the other night. That was fun. It was a little stressful in the morning when my ambient temp on my meter said it was 900 degrees in the smoker, and I ran out to find it on fire, but just kind of cut a little of that char off on the bottom. It just fell apart. Fantastic. It was real good. Just, minus the little char on the one side, but yeah.
And,
So I've been doing a lot of
Nick,
cooking.
I don't think Jason and I got our delivery of bacon yet. So I know you were planning on sending out your brother and your favorite cousin some bacon. So I'll just keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, I actually have a 10-pounder curing in the fridge. So that needs to cure for upwards of 10 days before I could smoke it and then slice and package. So that's a long process, but it's so worth it. So, yep, you just it's a little delayed at the moment, Dan.
Okay, I can patiently wait.
All right. Okay. Let's talk a little football here. So Steve, are you in a fantasy league this year?
Yeah. We got Cincinnati League with some of the boys, and then there's always that work league that you have to abide to. Just the two this year. I kind of took it off a little bit. I've been getting creamed in some of these leagues the last couple of years, so I decided to kind of cut it down and refocus. It didn't work.
Still not doing so good, huh? Did you have like a certain draft strategy kind of going into it? I mean, I know I have been with you at with your fantasy drafts, and I was in the backseat of a car with you while you were doing one on the way home from us shooting some sporting clays. So I know you weren't like super prepared for that one, but did you have a strategy coming into these two?
I would say that typically my strategy, is best player available, but I always like having a quarterback that I can believe in, which I know is very far and few between. Or excuse me, I guess I am in 3 leagues because we have a super flex. So it's if you have 2 quarterbacks, and I've won that league before, if you get 2 guys who can really sling the rock and kind of blow it up, which I think Aaron Rodgers actually was my quarterback last time I won that league. I think that's crucial in a super flex, but I think I play 3 different formats. So sometimes I get a little, my beams crossed, and then I'm like, oh yeah, no, I probably don't need 2 quarterbacks there. No.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I remember I asked you to be in this dynasty league a year ago, 10 months ago, probably closer to a year ago, but you were concerned about that same thing, just trying to cut back a little bit. So in this one, trust me, I got out of one because I thought this was going to take up a majority of my time, and it sure did. I feel like I'm in on this all day. So sometimes I'm constantly thinking about this one. So because everything you do on a dynasty, like it's not like a redraft league where if you got somebody that's really good but they're hurt at the end of the year, you can just drop them because who fucking cares? It doesn't matter. Right. Nobody else is going to pick them up. But you can't do that. Everything you do affects everybody else for years to come. So this one takes a lot more thought. But hey, it's been a lot of fun. So a little different, but
for sure.
I guess kind of since we're talking about kind of your strategy on, and I have asked this in the past some people, but I kind of am curious about, and after this we'll get into our favorite segment of the week, which is going to be, I think is going to be a big surprise for Steve. I don't think he's ever seen this yet, unless you've watched, but let's start. I'm going to ask how you would build a team from like top to bottom. If tomorrow you had the first pick in the draft, or you were rebuilding the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it was a complete rebuild. I want to know how you would kind of do that. And then after that, we'll get into some other NFL, and we'll get into our favorite segment of the day. And
sure.
So
no, these are always some of my favorite questions to talk about, kind of around the bonfire or the drinking circle, for sure. As far as, okay, so, Kevin Colbert, and when he retires, he doesn't select the current GM, he selects Steve Froh, which I think is a great choice, first of all. And I'm really honored and happy to be here. Just, keeping with tradition as the standard is the standard. We'll continue to bring these winning ways to Pittsburgh. I would say, I'm looking at the current team right now. I think Kenny's a good, I think he's got a lot of upside. I think our running back situation is great with Jalen Warren and Najee. Tight ends, wide receivers, dime a dozen for us in Pittsburgh. Not saying that they're, worthless, but I think we really have a great staff to make them better. The defense is really strong. Linebacker wise, I don't think we have a pass rush as far as like kind of the big boys up front, and growing up in a Pittsburgh household in Cincinnati, we believe the line moves forward as Ben Roethlisberger throws the ball, right? So we don't have Ben, so that's been painful, and we haven't had him for like 3 or 4 years because that elbow thing. So I would say that I think we need to invest in our offensive line, and whether that comes from like an offensive line coach, someone who might need to, figure their shit out. I think day one, I get the call. I think the next call is, obviously to my mother. And then the third one is to Matt Canada, and I'll just tell him we no longer need your services, whatever. Great. Thanks. I'm sure you're a great guy. I don't want to get to know you,
Yes.
I can call plays. I have Division IV high school experience.
Right.
So
right.
Give me a call.
Right. I mean, how many times am I going to throw a bubble screen pass, or I'm going to do a wide receiver jet sweep? Right. Like I'm just done with it. I can't see it anymore. We have the talent to run the football, and we have the talent to throw the football. I don't know why we're not picking better plays these days, but again, that's coming from a Steeler fan. The first year as a Steeler fan, we barely missed the playoffs, and from then on, it's been all uphill. So I'm definitely a little biased there. So fair enough. But no, I think you invest in the offensive line. I think you invest in the defensive line, and we're picking probably kind of in the middle of the pack, like 12 to 16. So I got to think that there's some good talent there that we can utilize for, David DeCastro was a great first round pick for the Steelers as a guard from Stanford. Alan Faneca, those are the guys I grew up with. Willie Cullen, not a great draft guy, but like built him up to be a better left tackle for a number of years, right? And also just a great person in general, but always visit the troops. I love that. But you definitely rebuild the line, and that's where you start with, especially with the skill players that we have. And I just don't understand why we're not doing it. But that would be my TED talk of rebuilding the Pittsburgh Steelers.
All right. Oh, so let's just say you were building a team from scratch, Steve. What's the first position that you address? Like you don't have anybody in the roster. You have the first pick in the draft. Are you going who would you go after first?
Everybody.
What would you?
I think you pick. I think it goes down to. That left tackle versus pass rush every time, right? But that's like in a typical draft. So like now you're thinking about, okay, fantasy draft. I think you pick a quarterback, and I think you pick someone who has. I think you set yourself up for victory there with 10 years. You could even go Jalen Hurts. You could go. He runs a little bit too much. Justin Herbert. You could go Patrick Mahomes. You could go. I think at the end of the day, I go with the cliche answer. I think you pick like Patrick Mahomes, right? Because he's got consistent, deliverable success. If I can draft him without his wife and the horrible things that happen, I guess on Snapchat or in the social media world or Snapface, whatever, you pick him, right? Because I think he's got an unbelievable upside, right?
Mm-hmm. So that's interesting. Nobody has brought up the left tackle end, but we've asked that when I've asked that, Dan. That's a good point, because that left tackle position is as important as maybe not as important as a legit quarterback, but it probably is pretty close second. You could probably say it's up there with a top tier pass rusher too. So yeah, that's interesting. When I've asked that question, nobody's really brought up a left tackle. So it's a good point.
Yeah.
What? Yeah,
Follow-up question for you, Steve.
sure.
You talked about Kenny Pickett. You think personally he has a pretty good ceiling. How did you feel when Pittsburgh drafted him? And what do you think is his potential? Do you think he's going to be top 5 guy in the next 3-4 years, or do you think he's just an average starter, or where do you project him?
I think great question, because I he's the background on my phone. He was the background on my work computer as a Pittsburgh Panther. It just seemed too perfect. He didn't even have to move really too far for his locker room. So, and he's got the quarterback intangibles of like decent person, takes care of his people, takes care of his offensive line. Like those are the things that Pittsburgh looks for, probably almost more than he can throw the ball really far. Right. I'll never forget the time that we released Santonio Holmes after he caught the game winning touchdown in the Super Bowl because he got suspended for breaking the rules for marijuana. Right. Like that still echoes in my ears to this day that we did that. We hold a high standard. So, but back to your question, Kenny Pickett, I'm a big fan of Santonio Holmes, by the way, but Kenny Pickett, I think some of the long throws, some of the short throws, there's concern there. But the speed of the game is so much quicker than it is at Pitt. When he does that fake slide at Pitt, that classic play that everyone finally looked at him and went, wow, this guy's really good. That's never going to happen in the NFL, because that guy's going to take your head off, or he's going to bite up and you slide and it's over. As far as like running the team and having the locker room and all those things that don't matter on the football field, but seem to rear their ugly head when you lose, he's got those things. So, back to my previous comment, Matt Canada, I'm not really a huge fan of that. I'm not a huge fan of the play calling. I'm not a huge fan of his offensive line in general. I don't think the guy has enough time to really make those throws and make those reads. He's a rookie in the NFL. So it's tough, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think his ceiling is probably top 10 fringe quarterback. I don't want to say like a Kirk Cousins type where he like folds under pressure, because I don't think he does. I think the guy is big for the moment, but I think he's wearing 2 gloves. I don't have a problem with that. He can sling the rock when he's really feeling it, but that's when he has enough time and when his guys are open, right? So, I think kind of a top 10 quarterback there in a defense that leads the league in, shutting people down. I think there's definitely a winning formula there. So I think Kenny's got quite a bit of years left in Pittsburgh for sure.
I would agree with you there. I think he's going to do pretty well. They just, like you said a couple times, they just need to bolster that O-line for him and Najee, who has shown some really good flashes, but needs a little bit more help there. But I agree 100%. Go out and get a first round offensive lineman. Go draft 3 of them, man. A couple of them will pan out. So
right.
I mean, look at the Seahawks. Obviously one of them is one of those tackles is a first rounder, but that other one they have starting, they think they have 2 starting tackles for the next like 10 years. Would they get him in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round? So anything can happen there, but I agree. Get that O-line bolstered up, and then the Steelers they're gonna be looking good with that
dangerous,
nasty defense yet, especially with Minka and TJ Watt on the field at the same time. God, watch out,
Right.
So
those guys have a sixth sense, man. It's awesome to watch. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, Steve, before we get into some football, we're gonna start off with some Thursday night football, but I'm excited for you to see this. This is our favorite segment of the week. This is called Obi's Picks. So I guess I will leave the video to kind of explain and show you what we do here. So all right.
Welcome everybody to week 15 of Obi's Picks. As you can see there, he is Obi himself. In Obi in the background. Look, he's got a portrait of himself. This week, we have the Jets and the Jaguars. A couple years ago, we would have said this was an awful game to watch, but I think I think things are changing now. So, Obi, I'm excited to see this game. Are you excited to see it, buddy? Let's see who you got. Come on, pal. Come here. He's going with the New York
Ooh.
Jets.
JETS. Jets.
Oh, my bad.
What's Obi's pick for the record for the year here?
Well, you'll
Oh.
see that here on the next
Okay,
slide.
okay, all right.
Not great, Obi.
Yeah.
Okay,
We are
well,
not doing too good. Obes
that-
is he's on a big losing streak.
Oh, I accidentally put the Jags, but yeah.
Yeah, not looking good. I actually I might have to adjust a pick on my pick'em league now because of this, but honestly, there was a stretch there on that first 4-game losing streak that whoever you was picking, I was going with the opposite. And unless it was a clear cut one, well, actually, who I already had like week 15 here last week, the Niners and the Seahawks. I thought for sure the Niners are going to win, and I went with them. But still, I think I have the Jets, but I might have to switch that now because he's not doing me too good right now.
Well, Trevor Lawrence seems to be finding a comfortable little stride there. So I think that's a nice thing to see.
Yeah, and I actually sent Dan this text last night, the night before, but that when's the last time that anyone would have said that they would be excited to watch a Jets and Jaguar game? Honestly,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
but tomorrow, I mean, it's Thursday night football, and I know it's a quick turnaround and all this and that, but hey, that's actually going to be a pretty good matchup. And like you said, Trevor looks mighty fine. He looks like he is who they thought that he was, if he didn't have to deal with the shit show of Urban Meyer last year, maybe we would have seen his progress more last year or earlier this year. But yeah, these last 5-6 weeks, I think he's like leading the league in quite a few categories. So very excited to see that. I am just, it's going to, Zach Wilson being out there again this week is going to impact some fantasy decisions that I have because, well, I guess we'll dive into that a little bit. Dan, we'll get Steve up to speed in a few minutes here after we're done talking about this one. But any thoughts on the game tomorrow night, Dan?
I am obviously rooting for the Jaguars. I would love for them to somehow sneak into the playoffs. Pretty unlikely at this point. Clearly, the Jets are the better team, but I agree with you. I think the Jets are still figuring a lot out. I think they have a lot of talent, but I don't think they're going to maximize that talent for another year or two. Jags are obviously up and coming. They still have a lot of kinks to work out. They're about as inconsistent as it gets from week to week. So I'm pulling for the Jags, but I think you got to kind of lean towards the Jets at home this week.
Interesting. So you're going with Obi.
I didn't say
that. Steve, what do you think about it tomorrow? Anything? Got any
Well,
thoughts?
I mean, you were saying Zach Wilson is quarterbacking, yeah, because Mike White is broken, battered, and beaten, if I remember correctly, after last week. So, I mean, I don't know. I think a guy like Zach Wilson doesn't have the locker room, and those guys are, I mean, everybody plays for money in this league. So, yeah, it's going to be Jacksonville. They're going to go for it. So, I'm going to have to go against Obi.
Yeah. Yep. And so we'll give you a little background here on a brief rundown on the league. But so I snuck in at the 6th seed at 7-7. Dan was the number 1 seed at 11-3.
Ooh,
I think
Or
10-4.
10-4.
there you go.
But so the first 2 seeds have a bye, and then so I had to play the number 3 seed, who I played Jake, who we'll talk about later on. I won, and now since it goes by seeding, I am playing Dan this weekend in the semifinals. So whoever wins this is going into the championship. So we're gonna have some cousin on cousin fucking shit going on.
Easy,
on
Alabama.
on Sunday. Yeah, right.
And
But,
we're projected within 1 point of each other.
Oh, so it's a tight race. Oh, I love
Yep.
that. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
So I'm gonna have
Can
a
I
tough
get-
decision.
Can I get both your fantasy liability worries for the week here?
Absolutely.
Because there's one
Yes.
guy on
I-
each team, right?
I have one, and he's my quarterback,
Who you got?
Aaron freaking Rodgers. I want to talk about this later, but I picked up Justin Fields. Cody had him, but has Patrick Mahomes, so he dropped Justin Fields. I picked up Justin Fields just to stash him on my bench, but I had Trey Lance and Jimmy G and
One other guy.
Brock
Tua.
Purdy.
And
Oh,
Tua.
you had Tua.
So I traded Tua, and then I ended up getting Kyler Murray in a deal for Justin Fields before Fields started blowing up. After I traded him because I needed to solidify the quarterback position. So I traded Fields and a first rounder to get Kyler and a second rounder. And now that Kyler's hurt, my other quarterback is Kenny Pickett. So I have Aaron Rodgers or Kenny Pickett are my only two quarterbacks. So
Oh boy.
I'm riding with Rodgers this week. He's going to have to throw against Miami, I think. But I also have 4 of the top, I believe, 14 or 15 fantasy running backs. So that's where I lean on versus Nick, who has 4 or 5 of the top 20 wide receivers. So it's my running backs against Nick's wide receivers, really.
Yeah, I
Yep.
like that. All right.
And then sprinkle in the number 2 or number 1 fantasy running back that I've got in who came out of I shouldn't say came out of nowhere, but was not expected to do what he's doing this year in Josh Jacobs. So that's panned out for me very well. But Dan said Rodgers is his guy he's nervous about. There's a couple guys I have to make the decision of. I have Garrett Wilson. He was my first pick in our rookie draft at the 5th overall. That one I have to shuffle. I have to make a decision between 2 rookies at wide receiver, either Garrett Wilson with Zach Wilson, who last week it didn't turn out so bad, but and then I have Christian Watson as well. Those 2 are I ended up having 2 first-round picks in our rookie draft in May, and I took 2 more receivers. So I have to make a decision there of who to trust more. Do I trust the guy Dan was just kind of nervous about throwing the football to Watson, or do I kind of go with Garrett Wilson and about Zach Wilson, who we were just talking about, saying who's just kind of shit the bed there with his team lately. So that one that I'm nervous about. And but other than that, I mean, I'm just nervous Travis Kelce is going to go off for another 3-tutty game, because if that happens, I'm fucked. It's over.
Yeah.
I think.
I was going to say that's my other advantage is I have Kelce, who is almost doubled every other fantasy tight end.
Yeah, he's crushing it this year. Fair enough. Yeah. Oh, that's
Yep.
oh, yeah. Well, RELAX, you know.
It's going to be a big matchup, and I would love for nothing more than to ride Aaron Rodgers in the fantasy championship.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a Green Bay Packers wet dream right there. So like, go for it, you know.
And Dobbs is back, so he can just throw Dobbs all day. It's fine.
He's Dobbs looks great, man. I mean, you guys really hit the nail on the hammer with that. And obviously Christian Watson, but like just the trust that Rodgers has with those guys is that's dynamite. You gotta love that.
Yeah. It was a slow start, which
For sure. Yeah. For sure.
Which you can go back to our very first episode of this podcast where I said the same thing. It was going to be a slow start, but I think we're going to kind of see things rolling a little bit towards the end of the year. But I also didn't see us being 6-8 at this point either at the beginning of the season. I didn't think it was going to be nearly as good as the last 2 seasons when having last 3 seasons having 13 wins, but I didn't see it being 6-8 through 14 either. But anyways, I guess we have been, why don't we just we'll do a little more Packers talk here, and then we'll go into our predictions, and we'll do some more NFL talk.
Real quick here. I saw you had a full beer there. Do you have just a kegerator on the other side of the camera or something?
I wish.
I gotta go run and get another beer real quick.
No.
Obi actually delivers him
Just-
during the show.
Yeah, he does.
That is a hell of a good looking dog, man. It's fair enough. Yeah. I'll be right back.
Yep, not a problem. Well,
Nick, while he's getting a refill, are we on air gonna agree to a side bet this week?
well, I lost the first one, from you know, and we had bet a bottle of Basil Hayden's, and that's here, you know, here it is, sealed and approved. Yet it's still it's at there. We could do a little double or nothing, or we could switch it up a little bit.
I mean, we could do whatever we want. I think switching it up is more fun. I mean, double or nothing. I don't drink that much bourbon. You know, I don't
Oh,
need.
okay. Well, let me think about this. Maybe we might have to turn this into like a, well, shit. How about this is an idea. This is an idea. If one of us turns out to win the league, no, that's not going to work.
How about for our party next year, the loser of this week's matchup pays for dinner and drinks when we do our party next year?
Well, that's friendly. I like that.
Between us two?
Yeah, just between like our matchup this week.
All
Encourage
right.
a little camaraderie.
And you know, I can eat a lot, so I will be running.
I was gonna say, ours we'll just go out for lunch or something. That whoever loses has to buy lunch next time we get together.
Deal.
Same either maybe a different time, but let's do it. Lunch or dinner.
Deal.
Pack on some tacos, go to that Mexican place again or whatever, man. I don't care. I love food. I'm not too picky. But anyways, let's do some more Packers talk. Dan, do you have some more thoughts on the old Green Bay Packers before we get into our predictions?
I want to stay positive, and we beat the Rams. We were supposed to. You can't be mad that we did what we were supposed to do. I'm not overreacting because a lot of things have to happen. But looking at the Commanders, the Giants, and the Seahawks remaining schedules, it's going to be tough. Like if we run the table, it's possible. But I just feel like they just are dragging us along to just barely miss out. So my biggest fear is that we go to the last minute and then we just barely miss the playoffs. But because we won all these games down the stretch, we get a worse draft pick. However, I will say if we make the playoffs, I would not want to play the Packers if they make the playoffs, because that means that we will have ran the table. It means we will most likely be healthy and playing really good football. And honestly, in the NFC right now, everyone can beat everyone for the most part. I mean, Philly and Minnesota are clearly the better teams. But I think anyone that makes the playoffs can win from week to week. So anything's possible, but I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, that's going to be tough. As much as I want a top 10 draft pick, because I mean, I'm used to waiting till the end of the first round all the time. But I would love an early pick, but I agree. I think we're gonna win like 2 out of these next 3, but the one that we're gonna go 8 and 9, and then we're just gonna miss the playoffs. So I'm gonna end up with a middle of the road pick, 14, 15, whatever it is. But yeah, I if they make the playoffs, I would disagree that I don't think that teams would fear us, because our defensive scheme is so bad, and we've touched on that a lot in the last few months, that it's just been an absolute shit show. I mean, even against the Rams, not to say that Baker Mayfield is a superstar quarterback, but I feel like any quarterback could have been hitting some of those receivers underneath that coverage sometimes, like that cover 4, they were 3rd and long a couple times. It just was like, oh yeah, a little curl just right by the first down marker. And there they are, because we're playing too deep, like we always are, just letting everything underneath. I understand that's what a cover 4 defense does. You bend and bend and bend, but don't break. But sometimes it's just like, fucking put a little pressure on these guys, especially Baker, who usually doesn't do well with pressure. So
Great. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks to play against for sure.
Yeah, yeah, especially because Pittsburgh has a lot of pressure.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe a question for you. I just had to look it up, and I would have been wrong, but can either of you, now I know Steve, you're more of a Steelers fan, so it might be a harder question for you. But Nick, can you tell me the last time the Packers drafted in the top 10, and who was it?
Oh yeah. Wait.
I would have got this wrong.
Were you gonna say AJ Hawk?
Yes,
It's been more recent than that.
it was.
No, don't tell me I know who it is. I think I know who it is.
Who was it?
I think it's Rashawn Gary.
He was
Fuck.
12.
Oh, okay. All right. Give me a second here, because this is, see, I love this. I mean,
I'll
you
just-
guys give Steve a
You,
chance.
you guys had a top 10 pick, and then we traded you and then picked Devin Bush or something like that. Or we traded in front of you and picked Devin
Right in
Bush.
front
So
of
it's
us.
yeah, so it's not, I don't think it's, is it
I'll tell you,
before?
AJ Hawk was a year after Rodgers. He was 2006. I thought that was our last top 10.
Yeah.
There's been one other pick in the top 10 since then.
Ooh, okay. All right. That's a good question.
And I will say he was a pretty damn good player.
Was.
So he's okay. Yeah.
So
Because I will
this
tell
was-
you,
had to
I,
have been-
yeah.
this is gonna go okay. All right.
Yeah.
So this is gonna go back to like 08, 09. Then
Is it an offensive lineman?
no,
No. Okay. All right.
knew that. I don't
Yeah.
think it was another
We
linebacker.
don't take first round offensive linemen. Come on.
Oh yeah, you guys grow them in the
We
ground
do,
here
but
and
at
just
the
pick
end of
'em
the
out.
first round.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
we don't take offensive players in the first round. Remember?
That's right. Well, it's definitely not a receiver. I know that. That's for sure. Because Rogers has said that so many times in my 6 years in Wisconsin. So that's definitely echoing in my ears.
I don't know.
Is it
I
HaHa
can't-
Clinton Dix?
Nope, that was
No, I think he was
21.
in the 20s.
No, was he? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
How's this
Okay.
name, Nick?
Yeah.
BJ Raji.
No
Oh,
shit. Oh, there you go.
Oh, yes. I was thinking, because it was one of those, what I got that confused with, because I thought I knew it was one of those drafts that we took 2 players in the first round, and Rashawn Gary was the same one with Jair, I believe. Or no, I'm sorry, Savage, Darnell Savage. But I was thinking there was a defensive lineman, somebody on the front that we drafted in the top 10, and fuck, damn it, I should have known that.
And who was the other player that we took in the first round that year?
Clay Matthews, baby. That's the first draft that I actually watched live. Yeah, there he is.
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay, so Steve, I have a confession to make. As much as I root for your Pittsburgh Steelers, because I have another friend of mine, his name is also Nick, that is a big Steelers guy, but this is gonna hurt. This is gonna hurt you for you to hear this, but
Oh, go ahead.
I do love me some cool Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase.
Me too.
I
man.
love
Me too.
I love watching
Me
these
too.
Bengals, man.
Yeah.
I love watching.
Yeah.
They're so much fun to watch. My team actually relies pretty heavily on that. I did some stacking. I do have Joe, Jamar, and Evan
As do I.
McPherson.
I have Joe as well.
Oh,
I love Joe.
sweet.
I'm a big fan
Yeah.
of Joe. Go Tigers. Go Tigers.
Go Patriots this week.
Well, that's
Just this
fine. The
week,
Patriots,
just
if the
this week.
Yeah. They'll lateral
That's-
it away. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know what? That's fine. If the Patriots want to throw up 50 points, that's fine, because Joe Burrow's just
No,
gonna throw.
no.
He's gonna throw and throw and
Yeah.
throw, and then
I
we're
was thinking like an NFC North, Ravens against Browns, like 9-3, maybe.
no,
Ooh,
no.
That is not outside the question though. A 9-3 game and negative 25 wind chill, that could totally happen. Absolutely.
It
Yeah.
could, but when that all happened, when that would be a normal thing in the AFC North, they didn't have Joe Burrow at quarterback. Keep that
That's
in mind.
Well, the head
All
coach
right.
in Palmer, he was pretty good. Just saying.
Yeah.
Well,
I actually, when I saw that Tom Brady was winning like 10-0, or they're beating up on the Bengals pretty good in the first half, I said, and I was nervous because I needed to win to advance in fantasy. So I was like, this is the best case scenario right now, because they're behind. And even though Joe, like the entire Bengals offense only had like 100 yards, I'm like, this is going to be perfect, because Joe Burrow's just going to be chucking it the whole half. Like, they're going to just say, fuck
yeah.
running the ball.
Yeah.
And then they put up like 21 unanswered points to take the lead. And then they, of course, we had a late Jamar Chase touchdown there at the end, which kind of put me over the top. But yeah, that was, I'm hoping, hey, you want to have a high scoring game over in New England? Do it.
Absolutely.
I'm all about that.
Absolutely. I mean, that's Joe Burrow is like the classic case of a guy who has like all of the moxie and charisma to win the locker room, and then also the juice to just back it up, right? Which is my worst nightmare, but love watching the guy, right? I mean, just through and through, just a freaking thoroughbred throwing that thing. Unbelievable guy.
Yeah. Yep.
Well,
And it's gonna be unfortunate more for you though, Steve, because he's not going anywhere, man. He's going to be there for the next. I mean, you think he's already 25.
He's an Ohio
26,
boy. Yeah. He's an Ohio boy.
But he's not going. I can see him being around for like 10, 12 years.
Well, the people of Cincinnati love him so much. I mean, Joe Shiesty impersonations show up on my feed all the time on Facebook and Instagram. So it's still full of Cincinnati folks, and great dude is the savior to the city. So they took him to the Super Bowl. I cheered for the Bengals in that Super Bowl because I think those people just deserve it, man. I also just give him a break, man. Golly, holy cow. Yeah. So no, that guy's awesome for sure.
Yeah. Were you a even bigger Big Ben fan since he played college in Ohio?
Not so much. I seeing Big Ben get drafted. That was the Eli Manning year where he, complained, got drafted by the Chargers and then switched to the Giants and Phillip Rivers. And there was so much action going on with that. And then we drafted some 6'5", 240-pound quarterback who can sling the rock. And we were like, oh, well, I guess he's going to be good. But at that time we had Tommy Maddox, who, famously in my mind, I'll never forget, dropped the ball in overtime on a handoff, and then the Jacksonville Jaguars won the game, right? So that guy was basically a used car salesman, and I was not a fan.
Was Tommy Maddox the one that played in Canada for a while?
He was a XFL guy. So yeah, Mr. He Hate Me. But no, Tommy Maddox was XFL guy, and I mean delivered for the Steelers when we were running the football, right? Because I remember Big Ben had an interview and he's like, Pittsburgh, they only run the ball there. Like, I don't want to go there. And then, it turns into the Pittsburgh Steelers of today, where it's wide receiver university basically at the pro level. And, Big Ben is breaking plays and just slinging the rock around, right? So it's a very different world than it was when he was drafted, for sure. But I mean, we weren't really that excited. But then Tommy Maddox got hurt, and then Big Ben went like 14-1 in his first year. And I think after the third or fourth game, I think my whole family got Big Ben jerseys. So we were pretty on board with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you have Big Ben now with this no roughing the quarterback, where they can't actually hit a quarterback hard? He would just be standing back there for people just be bouncing off of him because they can't take him down.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, again, to this day, I still remember against the Baltimore Ravens, they do this image or whatever, and it's like the human, the Da Vinci man, and it's Big Ben, and it's all of his injuries just that year, and it's like week 12, right? And it's against the Ravens. He's got a broken nose against Haloti Ngata, who just brought it in across the face mask, and the man is just battered and beaten, and he still delivers victories all the time, right? He's just a big lumbering, he should be a tight end in today's world, or should put up enough weight. He'll be an offensive lineman. But I mean, the guy can just play football. He's like an Ovechkin, right? He's just a classic hockey player. Like Big Ben is a classic football guy. So a classic quarterback. So no, it's I freaking love Big Ben. I miss him, man. I miss him.
Oh, that's funny. That's too good. But actually, what was I? Shit, I was going to ask you something about that. What were we talking about before that?
How much did I love Big Ben once he was drafted?
Joe Burrow. Ohio.
Oh yeah, Joe Shiesty.
Nope, I lost it. I do remember now. So we brought up several times on this podcast, though, Steve, is whoever the Pittsburgh Steelers are scouting wide receivers, that guy should be the highest paid fucking scout in the entire league.
Oh,
he really should.
1,000,000%. Yeah.
They keep bringing in just guys just over and over and over, but they do need to make a change. They need to hire a personal therapist for every fucking one of them that they draft, because every time they bring in these just absolute studs, and then they play a couple years and then they just go fucking bonkers. Especially the only one that they actually paid was AB, and we all know what's the shit that he's going through.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, like look at George Pickens. This guy is a freak,
I mean,
an
George-
absolute freak.
George was
But-
a dog before we picked him, so fair enough.
Yeah,
but
and
you know what I mean?
he was, but
Yeah.
he was, but they got a steal out of him in the second round because of that ACL injury.
Definitely.
Had he played that whole year, no doubt he would have been in the top half of the first round, I think.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, I just feel like you look at the only one I think that kept his head through his whole career was a guy that was delivering a lot of blows to the head in Hines Ward. So, which is crazy.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Hines has always been, he always led with the shoulder. He was never going with the head. Right. But then, then Antonio Brown hit from Vontaze.
He would lead
Burfict.
with the shoulder into somebody else's head.
Yeah. Yeah. He was the best. And that was my guy, was Hines Ward growing up. That was and that still is probably my favorite football player to this day, is Hines Ward. I mean, it's a dude who just absolute leader. But to your point, therapists for our wide receivers, extend that to everybody on the team 100%. I mean, I take men's mental health very seriously. I had a therapy appointment tonight, so it's very good to get those things out there and just sprinkle it around.
Yep. But also good for Mike Tomlin for the last 15 years or however long that he's been the head coach, for keeping that fucking locker room together.
Yep. Well, I've heard my entire fanhood of the Patriots always get us in the playoffs and everything else, and sometimes they do. I mean, I think 3 times they've ended our playoff our run, but he's a player's coach, right? He manages people, and I think that's an underrated thing about players coaches, which I would talk about Dan Campbell being kind of the same guy, of managing people and making sure they're in the right mental headspace of, this is a work day. We got to go to work. Right. So, he definitely does a good job of that. Now, Le'Veon Bell's rap career still hasn't taken off, but, I wish the guy all the best of luck, but
we love us some MCDC on this podcast.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. Me too.
Absolutely. Well, any last NFC or AFC North thoughts here?
Y'all should be worried about the Lions. That team is ready to fuck. And I don't mean to just be so terrible on the podcast here, but that team is, Dan Campbell keeps those guys in a cage, and they are hungry every day they go out onto the field. Like, they just play with a different kind of mentality and attitude. And if you guys are MCDC fans, I'm saying things that people have already said on here, but I just love watching the Lions. And I thought I'd never say that, because usually they play on Thanksgiving and you're like, Jesus Christ, the Lions are playing again. Oh my God. Mm-hmm. But that's a great football team. You guys should be worried about that.
No, I agree 100%. And I think we'll probably touch on that a little bit later with a new segment, a holiday segment that we're going to be doing a little bit later on. But what's crazy? Their offense already has looked really, really good this year. But now in the last 2 games, they've sprinkled in the 12th overall pick that ran, if he would have been healthy, probably a 4.3 40, just running over the top. That offense looks even scarier, because now you can spread. Now they're spreading that defense out even more. And I'm talking about Jameson Williams, everybody. If you can spread, if those safeties and everybody's playing a little bit deeper, well, who's going to eat in the middle then? The sun god, of course. I mean, come on. Like that offense, I think they need to re-sign, and they got to really rethink about, I know DeAndre Swift probably has all the ability in the world to be a bell cow, but I feel like you got to bring back Jamal. He's been a touchdown monster, and that whole offense, I agree 100%. They look fucking good. They really do. And I know Dan loves him some Jameson Williams too. So yeah, they're scary. I don't believe in the Vikings very much. I think that was a fluke this last week. I think they're
never will.
Yep. I think they're going to be a one and done again. Probably the first half of the season was like, these guys, they look pretty legit, and I think they're gonna do pretty well. But they've kind of showed some vulnerabilities here recently. So if anything, I agree with you, Steve, that Lions. I don't think they're gonna make the playoffs personally, but I think in a couple of years watch out. It's going to be the Lions division when Rodgers finally hangs up the cleats.
So I have a question for you, Nick. And Steve, you can answer this too. But again, I know it might be a little bit of a different question for you. But Nick, hypothetical, pray to God this doesn't happen. But NFC Championship this year, Minnesota is hosting the Dallas Cowboys. Who are you rooting for to win and go to the Super Bowl to represent the NFC?
Oh, this is an easy one for me. Absolutely. I'm going with the Dallas Cowboys. Fuck the Vikings. I don't care. I don't care. I know that the Steelers and Cowboys were butting heads for a few Super Bowls in the 70s, 80s, but no, fuck the Vikings. I hope they never win a Super Bowl. I hope that they can go. I don't even care if they go 17-0 for the rest of time, as long as they never win a Super Bowl. I'll just think that is just hysterical. Do it. Nope. Out.
Great answer.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I totally have to agree with you. And by the way, I wasn't alive for those Cowboy games. Since I've been born, they haven't won anything from what I remember.
Yep.
So
yep. I would root for, if you would have said like the Lions and the Cowboys or whatever Lions, I'd pull for them. I think I'm going to get real sick of the Detroit Lions because they've always been so low and we always beat them for the most part. We don't know like how their fans are going to be once they start winning on a regular basis, but I've experienced Bears fans, have experienced Vikings fans. In my experience, Vikings fans are the worst. So yeah, I know they're the worst. Nope.
Here's my example. Growing up, I am way older than both of you. We didn't have ESPN, so we watched WGN was the only sports. So we watched the Cubs. So obviously I'm Wisconsin, everything, Brewers first, but I was a Cubs fan second because I watched Rand Sandberg and Andre Dawson and Mark Grace and all those guys play. So I always kind of rooted for the Cubs because they're the lovable losers, right? And then they win a World Series, and now I can't stand them. And I've always been a Detroit Lions fan second behind Green Bay because of Barry Sanders, Herman Moore, and then Calvin Johnson, MCDC, Jameson, the Sun God. If they win a Super Bowl, I'm probably going to be like, okay, and I don't want to root for you anymore. But it's one of those teams in the cities that it's like, give them something. You know, we talked about it earlier in the year, Steve. Detroit really tried to switch their culture around because that franchise was a dumpster fire. They kept hiring the wrong GM. They kept hiring the wrong coach. They didn't have a good culture. And they hired Dan Campbell, not because he was probably the best head coaching candidate, but because he was probably the best person to turn around the culture in that franchise. And I think he's done that. So I'm definitely rooting for Detroit. Obviously not to beat Green Bay, but everybody else.
Absolutely. Steve, is there a team in the AFC that you would maybe or I guess any team in general, but somebody that you wouldn't be really expected to root for, but you kind of pull for them a little bit? Is it the Bengals like you guys talked about, or is it somebody else?
No, I think most of those AFC North teams, I hope they never make it to the stadium most days. The Ravens, for me personally, always hated. The Bengals, if I was going 2-14 for so long, I think I would act the same way. So I don't even hold that grudge against them. So now that they're having some success, I've been experiencing some pretty good people. I think for me, I've always been like a Peyton Manning fan. So I've always loved the Colts, and now watching the Colts just be horrendous, and make a terrible decision, like bring Matt Ryan in, right? Like just countless things. And then Jeff Saturday and everything else. It's just one of those things you just hate to see. Cause I think Bill Polian is, definitely, polarizing, you could say, as an owner. But I think there's some, like, I don't know. I always see like the goodness in people versus, the bad. So I've always really just enjoyed that franchise. And then, I mean, there's obviously the Pat McAfee effect now, but I've always kind of just really liked them. So yeah, I always cheer for the Colts.
Okay.
But yeah, everybody else, no, I kind of hope they just lose all the games. Yeah, that'd be always good. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, since you're kind of talking about some quarterbacks, I do have a question for the both of you. All right. So, and then we'll get into our predictions. But Steve, who, and then I'll go then Dan.
All
I
right.
want to hear your answers on this, but who are three quarterbacks, your favorite three quarterbacks of all time? No, you're not, obviously we weren't able to go and we weren't able to watch like Joe Montana. Maybe but we were like this tall. So
Sure.
anyways,
Yeah.
Talking about, I had Joe Montana 96 on Sega Genesis.
Oh, so yeah. Jealous.
Well,
Jealous.
But who are three quarterbacks? Who are your favorite three quarterbacks that you've been able to watch since you started watching football?
I think that's a great question because everybody always goes back to the greatest of all time, blah 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 blah, of their generation. So the ones that I could have watched, I think number one, Ben Roethlisberger, right? I mean that's a given. He's given me so many joyous moments in my life, so fair enough. But then number two, favorite one to watch or favorite one to watch fail. I'd have to put in Tom Brady, right? I mean, because the thing with him and Michigan and you're fighting for his own spot in the senior year and pick 199. And I think it's so over publicized now. So now you hate to see it. But like, my great grandfather used to watch ESPN classic films of Tom Brady playing Notre Dame 15 years after it happened. Right. And he's like, that Tom Brady is going to be a hell of a quarterback. So like, I love that aspect of Tom Brady because he's a competitor. He's aggressive. He's going for it. He's always, he's doing the right things. He's taking the pay cuts to make his team better around him. I've always loved watching Tom Brady. In the sense that I hope he gets sacked. Right. But like it always brings me to the television. So, villains are good for any franchise. Right. I love Thanos too. I think number three I think it would have to be Peyton Manning. I mean, and that's a guy I've always wanted to see succeed. He's from my alma mater, Tennessee. So, go Vols. That guy has done so much for the world as well as, the football world. How can you not love that guy, right? I mean, he's got a 5 head. He's hilarious. He's in every commercial, right? He does all the right things. And he also is, he's a competitor. He's fiery and everything else. So yeah, definitely have to be Peyton Manning there too for number three.
Very good answers. Dan, take it away.
I'm just going to be real basic and I got to go for 2 homers. I got to go the old gunslinger. Watching Brett Favre as a kid, he just was a joy to watch. He loved the game of football. He was a tough son of a bitch. You took the interceptions because he was trying to make plays. He won us the Super Bowl, first one since Super Bowl II. And then obviously I got to go Rodgers. I love him or hate him. Drives me nuts nowadays, but I mean, he also brought us a Super Bowl and he's been doing it the right way for a long time. And then another guy, love him or hate him, but he really was, I don't want to say the first guy, because he definitely followed in the footsteps of a couple guys before him, but
don't do it
for the modern era.
Don't
Michael
do
Vick.
it. Ah, you suck,
man.
I was gonna say him.
Yeah.
I had a Michael Vick jersey. The dude, Madden, it was like cheat codes. He still owns
Madden 04, best Madden ever. Absolutely.
Yeah, still owns the record for most rushing yards by a QB. He was so fun to watch. I love watching me some Lamar Jackson now when he's healthy, and he's like Michael Vick. And if Michael Vick would have made some better decisions off the field, he would have had a longer career. And even when he came back after a while, he was still playing some pretty high levels. So he's one of those what ifs. If he would have made some better decisions and had some better people around him, I definitely think he might have won a Super Bowl or 2 and probably would have been in the Hall of Fame. But he was a fun guy to watch.
Hey, I'm all on board with you. I'm not gonna add on to that because you hit it right on the head. That's a guy that I did have on my list. But I'm just a little bummed that you stole my thunder there. But I am gonna I'm gonna add on to A-Rod. He's gonna be, as much as I want to say Brett Favre, you got to experience some more than I did, Dan, but I'm gonna go with A-Rod because there was a good 10-year period there. If just making these just ridiculous plays like a fucking magician back there, just making guys miss and, just absolutely just fooling guys, even when you kind of scramble out, just making, linebackers just whiff. And it was just so much fun. And then not to mention just the way that he throws a football is just remarkable. Another one, I'm going to go back to it a little bit, who is really, really fun to watch is Joe Burrow. Love watching the guy. He's got a fire under his ass. I mean, he's just a baller. Like you kind of said about Tom Brady and everything. I think he's as close to like Tom Brady up here, like mentally, like when it comes to the football, to the game, where he's just got this fucking fire in him all the time, even when they're down, doesn't care, just does not affect him one way or the other. He's just going to keep chucking it. Doesn't matter if he gets sacked 70 times in the year like he did the first couple of years he was in Cincinnati. He's been a lot of fun to watch. But another one I'm going to have to piggyback off of you, Steve, is Peyton Manning. I always rooted for Peyton Manning.
Yeah,
I did.
absolutely.
And just to watch him just like carve defenses apart and completely just like
Omaha.
Just call everything out before it even happened. I mean, every time he threw an interception, and he had more of them later on in his career because his arm started to kind of fall off a little bit, but it was so impressive with what he did. Just kind of knowing exactly what was going on at all times. So, anyway,
and Peyton Manning had to rebuild that throwing motion after that surgery. I mean, he had to pick his like first throwing coach to go back to the basics. So that guy had it all and then restarted and decided to build it again. Right. So, I mean, that kind of commitment is just awesome.
And it only lasted 2 or 3 years after that, but still he had statistically top 2 or 3 best seasons of all time playing quarterback there. So and that was in Denver with a new team too. So that's a good one. And I think in one of these next few episodes we're going to be we're going to get and Stu back on next week. So maybe we should kind of flip it, 3 quarterbacks that we dislike watching. So anyways, let's get into some predictions here, and then I think Dan's got a pretty fun holidays segment here that we're gonna dive into. But so Steve, we're gonna do some players of the week here. So who did you have for last week's fantasy player of the week?
See here, fantasy player of the week. I think I went with I'm just pulling it up here on my notepad here. Let me get my glasses out now that I'm 30. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Fantasy player of the week. I went with Trevor Lawrence, showing up in big time there. Could have gone with Zay Jones, but Trevor Lawrence just dialing it in. That was awesome. That was great to see. Gotta love that.
Yeah. He's doing a good job. Just wait till he puts, I know he's a tall, lean guy, but wait till he puts on some more muscle. He's going to be a 6'6", 230, 240 pound guy too. He's going to be
265 if he calls Big Ben, man.
Well, I went with Jerick McKinnon. Hell of a game. Had that overtime touchdown to beat the lowly Texans. So, hey, the Texans are giving 2 top teams in the league some fits the last 2 weeks, taking them both to overtime. No. Did the Cowboys Texans go to overtime last week?
Yeah, they went to overtime, and then they fumbled they screwed the pooch.
Yeah, so good for them. But Jerick McKinnon had a hell of a game and scored the game-winning touchdown. That's a lot of points, and I believe he was on he was gone to waste this last week being on Kai's team because Kai had a bye in the losers bracket. So,
but Jerick McKinnon is going to have another 30-point week this week. I'm going to will him to it.
But yeah, I bet you he's playing Emily. Actually, both of those players are on Kai's team, and then both had big games, and he didn't get to participate this week.
Kai is actually projected to beat M this week.
Kai and M are playing each other this week.
Are they really?
Talk about
I didn't even look
about a divided household. Oh my goodness.
Steve, I have M's first round pick.
Oh boy.
So she's in the toilet bowl. So if she keeps losing in the toilet bowl, and John has 3 of the other 4. So the 4 people that are left in the toilet bowl, John owns 3 of those 4 picks. So we
And then
can't
you
let-
own the
Oh
fourth.
boy.
and I have the 4th with M. So we can't have John get 1, 2, 3, or else he is just going to be.
Well, we can't have a power imbalance like that.
Can't
That's
have-
terrible. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh boy, that'll be interesting. Oh gosh. All right.
The
who do you got
Seattle
for
Denver
this-
trade.
Yeah. So who do you have this week? Who do you think is gonna ball out?
So yeah, I had I've been seeing I watch a lot of Packer football these days. I'm marrying into a Packer family. It's never my first team, but it's typically my second. So Brett Favre pick for the quarterbacks that you love to see. I love that. But my fantasy player next week, Aaron Rodgers is trusting these younger wide receivers. He's getting it going on. He's got the Christian Watson thing on, and everyone knows it. Time for another guy to slide in. Romeo Dobbs. Let's get like 2 tutties. Maybe not even 100-yard game, but like 2 tutties and like 89 yards, 3 catches. Just one of those like, oh, look at him. He's wide open. Boom. Right.
Wow.
So one of those things. So I could totally see that happen.
I'm also okay with that, playing against Nick, who's got Christian Watson this week. I think we should probably get Lazard back in the end zone this week.
Yep.
I think Bobby T, it's been a while. So Watson had a good stretch, but I think if we're gonna make a playoff run, we got to get these other guys involved. So
Yep.
I'm with you on the Romeo Dobbs.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just leave Christian Watson. You might as well just, I know you say don't wish for injuries here, but why don't you just give Christian Watson another concussion right away, Dan, so you can skate
Boo.
on into the fucking
Boo.
finals.
You know me, I'll never root for injuries, especially.
Yeah. Well, I'm going with Jamal Williams. He had a down game this week in terms of fantasy points, but he
Only
did break
21
out.
points or something?
No, I think he only had 3.3,
Yeah.
but he did have a touchdown, like about a 15-yard scamper, but it was called back with a holding penalty. So I think against a bad Panthers team, I think these Lions are gonna run, or I'm sorry, bad Panthers. The Lions are gonna run it up pretty good, and I think Jamal Adams is gonna be right there. I think they're gonna use and abuse him while they can, and then if he wants too much money, they're just going to say bye-bye. So, how they do with running backs in this league, but I could see him having a big day for sure. Dan, got anybody in mind this next week?
I would love to just see Saquon Barkley continue because I love me some Saquon. So I would love to see a nice 30-point output from my guy Saquon.
Do you own Saquon just for the sanity of the?
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I have McCaffrey, Saquon, Nick Chubb, Tony Pollard, and Kenneth Walker.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
Right?
And I can
I feel like I
start-
would have been 11th place in your league too. So fair enough.
and
All right.
I can start 4 of those 5. So right now I have Walker on the bench. I'm actually considering starting him over Nick Chubb this week, but I know that if I bench Nick Chubb, he's going to have 30.
That is the cruel mistress of fantasy football. So fair enough. Yeah. You know how the game goes. Absolutely.
All right. Well, why don't we transition into some locks and some upsets here? So this is winning outright, of course. So we're gonna have the spreads on, but this is gonna be winning outright. So Steve, who do you got? Who do you got this weekend?
Let's see.
Or
underdog.
Sorry.
Underdog of the week
Oh,
here.
let's
For
start
the we're doing underdog of the week. or
You
we're
can
doing
do
lock?
it both right away. That's fine.
Okay. Well, I mean, just tell me what to do. This is my first time. So underdog of the week
Hold up
here. Yeah, exactly. There you go. Thank you. Underdog of the week here. We're going Giants. So plus 3.5. I think they're going to bring some heat here. Your boy Saquon is definitely going to eat. And you know what? I think Danny Dimes doesn't get a lot of respect. So, I mean, he runs for those first downs on third down. And John Elway once said, I don't get paid for first down and second down. I get paid for third down. So Danny Dimes is that guy.
And if you guys watched the game this last week, Saquon in the second half was running nasty. He was running angry. They were just
good.
They were giving him the ball on every down. The Commanders knew he was getting the ball, and I loved seeing that prepping for this week.
Yeah. I really, I'm a big fan of Saquon. I mean, that dude can do it.
They're playing Minnesota this week, correct? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, Minnesota's going to choke anyway. And I'm not a Packer fan. I'm saying, let's see. So for the lock of the week there, San Francisco's -7.5. I love Taylor Heineke. I can't believe that he doesn't have a Heineken sponsorship yet. I think that's ridiculous. The guy plays hard and he takes it too hard, right? So like when he lost that, I think it was a pick or a fumble last week with like 6 or 7 minutes to go. His like head's down. He's like, oh, he's just taking it right there mentally. And that's not a guy I want to bet my horses on. I love that he has the passion and the emotion, but he's got to be stronger than that, especially if he's going to be leading the NFL franchise. Now, it is the Commanders, so fair enough. But I think the Niners are just going to slice and dice them and just tell them, hey, listen, like your season's over and you guys know it. And I think by the second or third quarter, that defense is not going to want to play with San Francisco anymore. So I think it's going to be kind of an ugly game.
Yep. If you didn't
okay with that, and McCaffrey with Debo out can just eat all he wants, all you can eat buffet.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
You know, McCaffrey can have his McCaffrey game, but if the San Francisco 49ers give me about 25 for a defense this week, I'll take that too, because that might be the difference maker, because they are the number one defense in the league, but they're only like I shouldn't say only, the 2 or 3 scoring defense in fantasy football. They've been giving average fantasy defense scores the last few weeks, so they're ready to blow up. It's gonna only a matter of time. I can see a good 20 point here, a touchdown and everything in there.
Nick,
So
did you see what I did with my defense? I picked up the Chargers last week because they have the Colts this week, and then I forget who they have next week, but they have 2 really nice matchups. But then the Colts announced that they're going to play Nick Foles this week instead of Matt Ryan, because Matt Ryan is good for a pick 6.
Yep.
So I was picking up, and the Chargers defense, which was playing pretty bad, has been playing a lot better the last couple of weeks. So I was looking forward to a nice 6, 7, 8 sack game, maybe a little pick 6 from Matty Ice. But I actually think my defense is worse off with Foles in there.
I agree. I've been saying that actually like all year. Take Matt Ryan out. That's an old man. Put him out to pasture. He deserves retirement. He deserves all the beautiful things that it comes with it. What are we doing? Put Nick Foles in. Come on, that guy can sling the rock. He has nothing to lose.
Yep.
You don't want to play with a guy with nothing, without something to lose, really, right? I mean, you got to play those guys who are willing to, spread the jets and go for it. So I totally agree with you there. Amen.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go with, and this was a little bit tough here, but the Titans over Houston, and it wasn't tough because everybody thinks that the Titans are going to win against Houston, but Houston has played 2 good teams real tough the last 2 weeks. But I've just anticipated Derrick Henry just fucking running all over Houston here this week, and they're not gonna be able to stop it. They're gonna do a lot of ball control here, and Texans just don't have enough firepower on offense to keep up. So I'm gonna go with Houston, and then in that game that we were referring to a little bit earlier, the Jags and Jets. Jags are ups. They are underdogs only by a little, but I can see them. I'm going against Obi here, and I think I think the Jags are gonna win. And as you can see, Steve, myself and the guests were tied here. So it's not. This isn't against the spread. This is outright. So
okay,
it's hard picking games, man. It is. You think if you have a lock, like it's like a no brainer, right? But
that's
why Vegas always wins, baby.
Fair enough.
And we are not encouraging betting, and we do not give
not in any way, shape,
betting
or form.
Advice.
Absolutely not. No, we are not professionals. We are semi-amateurs. We will trade a dryer for a power forward any day of the week. Semi-pro. Everybody love everybody. Absolutely.
I have only guaranteed a win one time, and that was against John in fantasy, and I believe I won by 60.
Yeah,
60.
His over-under though was like 50 and a half or something.
Yeah.
So you've met my buddy John, Steve?
It's I think via PlayStation Network and something else, right? Because he's got a goofy name or something like that.
I think you've met him in person a couple
Oh,
times
in the real life world. Yeah.
Yep, real life world. And then so what he did is he had the first overall pick, took Jonathan Taylor as he should do.
Man, classic pick for
Yep,
this
well,
year and just killed everybody.
Well, this was but for Dynasty though, too, because he's only
Oh, yeah,
23 years old, right?
Love
well,
Jonathan Taylor, yeah.
halfway through we're like a week to the deadline, and he fucking dished him. He's like traded his ass away. He was struggling so badly, he said, instead of just like saying, all right, in the future here, I'm gonna build around Jonathan Taylor, he traded him away to Stewart for 2 first-round picks. So he got Kai's first-round pick, who we are talking about, who was not doing so good, and then another one who turned out. So like that's how he
It's a bad trade. It's a bad trade. You don't build a team about a running back.
I had offered him 2 first-rounders and Tony Pollard, and he said no, and then he just took 2 first-rounders instead because he told me he didn't want to make my team better.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, you clearly have kind of an imposing figure. I mean, you are Santa Claus. You travel around the world overnight on December 25th. That is terrifying. Also, you're the number 1 seed in the playoffs. And nobody wants to help the guy who's winning everything, right? Come on. It's lonely at the top, and you know that.
He disagrees. He's going to agree to disagree there that he's going to still want Jonathan Taylor.
But well, in defense, though, my first rounders would not have turned out to be as good. So John, now having literally guaranteed 3 of the top 4 picks, he just doesn't know which ones. He pretty much mortgaged his team. He also traded to pick up some young wide receivers. So I still think it's a bad decision to trade Jonathan Taylor when he's 23 years old, and Indy's only going to get better.
I agree.
But I mean, the trade, the picks that he traded for did work out. So I mean, it is what it is.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Well, Dan, should we get into our Christmas segment? This is going to be a new one for all of us here. I'm looking forward to this.
Oh, baby.
So I love Christmas. I love Santa. Our grandma loves Santa. So it's a great time of year, and I love to come up with some new segments every week. So I felt how better to celebrate the NFL year as we're coming up on Christmas. We talk a little naughty or nice today. You know,
yeah.
We got some naughty, we got some nice. We might even sprinkle in a couple non-football, that'll work into our naughty or nice here. But yeah, I think we need to talk about who's getting a lump of coal and who's going to be getting some gifts this year. And since you are our guest, I feel like we should start out with you, but I like to end on a positive note, and talk about some people who've been nice this year. So let's go through that list of naughty. So who's been on your naughty list this year?
I like that. When I first got the whole shindig here, the naughty list for me kicks off, and this is a recent acquisition to the naughty list. He was nice all year. But my first naughty is Jalen Hurts right off the bat. He's not playing in the fantasy playoffs. I know that his name is being screamed in basements and living rooms countrywide and possibly worldwide. I mean, this is a German sport and English sport as well. You got to play the game, right? I mean, you got to know that so many guys are putting their mortgages on you, and he's not showing up. So fair enough. But in general, he was on the nice list. Didn't love that. So, if I was Santa Claus, I'd probably be too hard of a judge. Naughty number 2 for me. Are we doing all my naughties right now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So naughty number 2, and arguably definitely number 1, Jonathan Taylor, right? The hype, especially being in Wisconsin. I mean, I knew that guy could play football. I've seen him break so many Wisconsin football runs. That guy was going to be a player in the NFL. And I picked him number 1 overall, or maybe number 2 overall in my work draft. Crushed me, absolutely crushed me. Just like CMC did last year. It was horrible. Just an absolute yard sale. My naughty list does not extend past the Colts. Jeff Saturday. Love that. Great leadership. Love that. You can't put a price on leadership, right? But 33-point comeback in the second half against Kirk Cousins and the new nightmare. I mean, if it was a primetime game, it would have been wrapped up in a nice little sealed bow. So fair enough. But Jeff Saturday is going to end up on the naughty list, and hopefully he doesn't have to lead any men into battle next year. So that would be one of mine. Now, my other one, Garrett Bradbury, a guy who does a great job of blocking for our friend Kirk Cousins, kind of across the state lines there. Land of 8,000 lakes, not 10. Thank you. Stepping on Kirk Cousins, making the guy fall over, not only this week, but also did it again this year. So 2 times. Now, you could arguably debate that it's Kirk's job to get out of the way. He's a pretty big man. So, I mean, the guy can't wreck Kirk Cousins' steez as far as, I mean, he's not a cool guy. And I thought for a little bit he was a cool guy this year. He maybe like made the hump, figured it out. No, of course he didn't. Boom, down like somebody like Mike Tyson in the first 49 seconds. Guy got knocked out. And then my last one, which is always going to be something that I just can't understand. But when you have the rock, you hold the power, just like Lord of the Flies. He holds the conch. Laterals are on my naughty list. Who has the ball and decides to let go of the ball? You have the conch shell. Don't ever give it up. It's one of those things. You know, Petey from Remember the Titans, he had to run 5,280 feet, or else his John Brown was going to be broken off in his John Brown parts, right? I mean, Coach Boone, absolutely. I mean, that was the man that raised our generation. So the fact that these guys are letting off the ball and they're getting paid millions of dollars, that is crazy to me. Naughty list, but you know, guys, it is just a game, so let's have some fun with it. So laterals are my number 5 for sure.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah,
I love that photo too.
I agree. The number 1 pick with JT, he let a lot of people down. Jeff Saturday,
tough.
I mean, the guy's in a tough situation.
Agreed.
Bradbury, he's on the Vikings. Yeah, he automatically on the naughty list. Jalen Hurts, I feel for the guy. And fun fact, a guy who's still left in the top 4 in our playoffs, his only active quarterback was Jalen Hurts.
Right.
So he just spent 91 fab dollars on Gardner Minshew this week. So, yeah. All right.
The mustache
out of 100.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah. I threw my last $4 that I had available, knowing damn well that wasn't going to be enough. But yeah.
But you know why he put the $91 down? And Dan, I texted you this morning while I was having some blueberry lemon ricotta pancakes for breakfast. It was fantastic, by the way. Sweet and salty pig. Shout out for there. I'd like your sponsorship as well. Anyways, it's because out of the 4 people that are in the playoffs that actually gave a shit, I had the second most fab left with 90, and Brian had, Brian, Steve, I'm pretty sure you've met him, but he had all of it, never used a single dollar all season, and he knew that I had 90, so he put 91 down on
that's fantastic.
Gardner Minshew to ensure that about. Yep. And then even Dan was messaging me the other day, like, hey, if I had any, like, if you have any fab, put all of it down on there just to play that game, just to play that evil game. But hey,
absolutely.
If you're in the semifinals now after it's 4 months in, like, come on, I feel like anything's fair game at this point.
Fair enough. Absolutely. And that's why the naughty list for Jalen Hurts, that hurts so much. But
yeah,
And the quarterbacks that are left in our league, I think for starters, it's Darnold, Davis Mills, and Baker, I think, are the only other 3 starting quarterbacks that are available. So I don't think you want to go. Actually, I think Darnold got picked up by Jake. So you're looking at starting Baker or
Dan. I think you got to give some Christmas spirit. I think you got to give away that guy Kenny Pickett and just let the boy eat. Right? I mean, come on, you're Santa Claus.
No, he's my future. He's dynasty. Stop it.
He's top 10 quarterback.
All right, Nick, who do you have on your naughty list this year?
Oh, this is gonna be really fun. I was looking forward to this because I love shitting on some guys. I love it. I'm gonna start off with Zach Wilson. And Zach Wilson, you are an immature, uptight little bitch boy that needs to maybe think about somebody else before yourself for once in your life, man. I know you statistically from if without somebody watching your game last week, it looked okay statistically, number wise, besides your completion percentage that was awful. But I really don't like the way that you treated the locker room. You took no accountability, and you deserved what you got in sitting down for 3 games for Mike White, and he did a hell of a job. And I don't care if you're a second overall pick. Mike White should have that. It should be the starter from going forward here. So although it impacts and also your play impacts my guy Garrett Wilson on top of that. So that's my first one.
Hope he doesn't get word of this.
I'm pretty sure he's gotten worse from others around the world. But
Fair enough.
Second, I'm gonna go with another Wilson. Dislike this guy even more than Zach Wilson in Russell Wilson. You're
gonna love this. You're gonna love this.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Mr. Unlimited.
This is my least favorite player in the NFL, and I don't care that he played a really good and spectacular year at Wisconsin. Doesn't matter to me because the guy that he tries to portray himself as, it's the complete opposite. And I have loved watching him struggle all year long. And I also am a little jealous that he's making $50 million a year to do absolutely nothing. And the Seahawks did well in trading you away. They've done everything. They benefited the second that pen hit the paper that you were going on your way out the door. So Russell Wilson, enjoy sucking for the rest of your career.
And the Waltons making a terrible deal, right? I mean, good Lord.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So then third, I'm gonna kind of you alluded to this on yours, Steve, but I got Bill Belichick on there. There he is, the mumbler himself. For the greatest of all time coach, as a lot of people call him, I feel like he has a lot of ill-advised, dumb-headed plays that his players make, including this lateral that you were talking about before.
We're on to Cincinnati.
Yep. So, well, yeah, but still, I mean, come on. I mean, for a guy that's been in the league for probably 30 years, you'd think that your players would be a little bit more prepared than to start throwing the football around to a 6'5" athletic freak in Chandler Jones. Do they not know who his brother is? Yeah. He's one of the most athletic people in the world in John Bones Jones.
Mac looks like he's making a good tackle there in that photo.
Yeah, that's a good photo, Dan, by the way.
Yeah, it was a really nice one.
Yeah. Number 4, I'm gonna go Joe Barry here. Joe Barry, you suck as well. It's a common theme here besides for Bill Belichick. You suck. You need to go. I'm waiting for the Jim Leonard era. It's this cover 4 thing. I'm not opposed to it when you're up by 30 points, but we're not. We're fighting in every single game, and we need some man coverage. If you draft some man corners, we need you to start playing some more man, start bringing some pressures, making some blitzes, doing some stuff here besides just sitting back and letting teams dice us underneath. And you're just lucky we have a couple athletic middle linebackers to kind of keep us in there. And then number 5, I'm going to go with the Las Vegas Raiders. And I know they snuck out a couple of wins here as of late. But that's been an absolute dumpster fire of an organization. I feel bad for Josh McDaniels coming into that. And with the awful first round drafting that they have done in the last few years, I feel like it's just setting him up for failure. Just think about, though, if these first and second round picks that they've taken in the last how many years, especially from all those the picks from the Khalil Mack trade, even if half of them panned out, we're looking at a really, really, really good team in Las Vegas. They have a lot of very good talent, and I think they're just wasting it now because of that of those poor drafts that they had. And had those guys pan out, I think this might be the team in the AFC right now, but not how it worked out.
Yeah, and I'm just going to sprinkle a couple on here. We're going to stick with a guy that we talked about a little bit earlier. Nick and I do not like Ohio State quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So we apologize, Steve.
I hate Ohio State.
Actually don't like Ohio State quarterbacks that go to the Chicago Bears. With that being said, this guy is on the naughty list for multiple reasons. And of course, I'm talking about Justin Fields here. Because I had him on my fantasy team and traded him before he decided to start blowing up. My team would look awful dangerous right now if I had him in my lineup. But also he's on the naughty list because he might be a problem for our Green Bay Packers for the years to come. Nick and I had an argument on this earlier in the year. I said I believe that the guy's got a lot of potential. Nick doesn't really feel that way. But I think this guy, if he can get consistent throwing the ball, and it's obviously going to depend on what Chicago does in the offseason this year, but this guy could be naughty for the Green Bay Packers for the next couple of years. But I'm going to also hop on Nick's bandwagon, and we're going to talk about some more naughty teams. First off, the Cleveland.
Amen. What a shit organization. Unbelievable.
We talked about how the Detroit Lions are a bad organization, but they're really trying to make decisions to turn it around.
Yeah.
And Cleveland just keeps fucking up.
Losers.
Not only are they terrible, they keep hiring bad coaches.
Mm-hmm.
They keep drafting.
Thank God.
They keep drafting really bad quarterbacks.
Thank God.
And now, not only are they a naughty organization, they just traded for possibly the naughtiest player in the NFL in Mr. Deshaun Watson.
Thank God.
That is why Cleveland is on the naughty list. And I don't see them getting off the naughty list anytime soon. Also, if you want to be on my nice list next year, Cleveland, give Nick Chubb the ball on the goal line. Thank you.
Amen.
Same theme. Got to go LA Rams. You have a team who this week just broke the record for this earliest exit by a Super Bowl team. They are officially eliminated from the playoffs. You can argue that they've had a lot of injuries and obviously their franchise quarterback is hurt. Well, with that being said, I don't know if Stafford's going to come back. He might just call it a career here soon if this injury lingers or is worse than they say. He's got a lot of personal stuff going on. Cooper Kupp is only 29, but I could see him, retiring fairly early to go spend time with his family. There's all these rumors about Sean McVay retiring very young to go do broadcasting as a career. So the future is not looking bright for the Rams. And I didn't even mention Aaron Donald has talked about an early retirement. So the LA Rams could be in trouble in a couple years. And then lastly, I'm going to end with some naughty head coaching. And Brandon Staley just kind of is the example that I'm using here. Steve, I tell Nick every week, I can't stand these decisions that head coaches are making. Fun fact, with all the rules now to encourage scoring, to discourage defensive competitiveness, it's all about protecting quarterbacks and scoring more points. This is actually the second lowest scoring year in the last 13 years. And I really feel like it's because of the decisions and teams going it for on fourth down all the time. I am all for spread offense, quick offense, going for it on fourth in certain situations. But so many times this year, I've seen these guys going for like 4th and 5, 4th and 7, when you can kick a 35-yard field goal, take the points. More and more often you see teams down 14 and they score and they go for 2 points. Like,
why? I've never gotten that.
I don't understand it.
Put it in the 401k. It's a long game, right?
Yeah. So it just kind of baffles me. And Brandon Staley, I feel like he's not the worst coach, but I feel like with all his talent, and again, they're injured, but I think he might be on the way out here shortly as well if he doesn't get his decision-making a little better. So viewers, that is our naughty list. And for you YouTube viewers, if you want to comment on our video, who made your naughty list this year? We would love to see that.
Yeah. And how bad was our naughty list? Definitely let us know. I'd love to hear that. Yeah.
Yes. But Steve, Nick, anybody else or anything else that you wanna talk about and make sure they know that they're on our naughty list before we move forward with the good children?
No, I'm more of a positive guy, so I'm going to let Nick take this one head on.
Hey, I feel like I give out an equal share of positivity and
Equal
negativity.
lashings, yeah.
So
Until
as hard
we're
as
out.
I was going there on my naughty list, I plan on doing just as much on the nice. But anyways, I don't think so. I mean, I'm sure if I thought about it a little bit more, well, I could say it. Patrick Mahomes, clean up your in between the plays a little bit. Stop pointing. Stop accusing everybody, the other team, of every single penalty that's ever been thrown on the field. Stop doing that.
There's a penalty on every play, so like don't get lost in the sauce.
I think you're a fantastic player, but stop accusing every dirty piece of laundry that hits the field on the other team, because it's just, so
hey, that's football, baby.
Disagree.
Yeah, Chase Claypool would make it for me. Chase Claypool, absolutely.
Yeah.
I would like to respectfully disagree and tell Patrick Mahomes I think he does a great job, and I think he should continue throwing to Travis Kelce early and often. And you just do you, man. Feed your tight end and put up some points.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right,
here we go, Steve.
Steve, we're gonna go back to you. Let's end this with some positivity. We got a lot of positivity going on in the NFL. Your Steelers are showing signs of life. Our Packers are showing signs of life. We're playing better football. So, who made your nice list this year?
For the nice list here, and again, I hate writing those naughty lists because I think all these guys for the most part are trying pretty hard. For my nice list there, my recent addition, just Dalvin Cook. Number 4 for the Vikings. I know this would never get said on your podcast, so I kind of took a little pride in picking him. Dalvin Cook, originally number 33, took number 4 for somebody else. So love that. He's probably just channeling his inner Brett Favre. So you guys can love that. But also brought his boys back from down 33-0. He was definitely wheeling and dealing for the Vikings there. So you got to put him on the nice list there. I mean, it's so close to Christmas. Those real big impact plays near December 25th really do a big thing for the man in the hat. The other one, I think this goes without saying, Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant. I mean, come on, right? I mean, the San Francisco 49ers can't get a quarterback to save their lives, and somehow they find 3 of them that are fantastic. So they're channeling their inner Green Bay Packers of like next man up. Oh, look, that guy's great too. So fantastic. I mean, just a dude who like figures out the locker room. He's aggressive. He's and I wouldn't even say aggressive. I think he's assertive. He's really like just a leadership kind of guy in the locker room and in the huddle. He's telling people, hey, you don't do that when Garoppolo's around. So why are you doing that with me? So he's like the substitute teacher that you actually respect because he's actually good, so you gotta love that. So nice. Mike McDaniel. I have loved watching this guy all freaking year. So my mother, Tracy, she has just been shitting on this guy. She's like, he's a nerd. He's a nerd. Right. And he's just like trying to figure out the game and everything else. And we've seen those nerds, right? Like try and figure out how to be a head coach. I think there was a Bears coach there. And then what was the Giants guy too? Like, it's all analytics. Like, you got to deal with these players too. I mean, these guys are alpha males. They have figured out kind of these are the best guys in their programs consistently for the last 10 years of their life. Yeah, there are some personalities you need to deal with. And this guy just cool as the other side of the pillow, to quote my friend Stuart Scott, rest in peace forever. But just a dude who just cannot go a week without having a great comment or something to the media and then just wheeling and dealing on the field. So Mike McDaniels, you're getting a great gift this year. Absolutely. Let's see here. Oh, Ivana Knoll for and it's not football, it's football. Right. So she's Miss Croatia.
We got one guy right before him though.
Oh, no. Okay. Oh, that's right. No, Deion Sanders. So people are giving him a lot of flack, but he is bringing a lot of gifts to not only Colorado, but he brought a lot of gifts to JSU there, Jackson State. He brought a lot of attention to HBCUs. He brought a winning culture to HBCUs. These kids are figuring out that they don't have to go to Tennessee, but they should. Just saying. Shameless plug, anytime, anywhere. But he's telling these kids that they can figure out and be respectful and be a gentleman of the game on and off the field. This guy is a great role model. I think he got taken out of context with the whole Colorado thing. Like, hey, I'm bringing some luggage to Colorado and it's Louis. And then it cuts. But after that, or maybe it's before that, but he says, if you're willing to work hard, act like a gentleman, basically, and do your part, and go to class, you sit in the the first two rows, and you're not wearing the jewelry and everything else. This guy is teaching young men how to be young men. And as a high school lacrosse coach myself, that's the thing that I really try and impart is, it's not about wins and losses. It's about growing yourself as a human being. And guys, if we grow ourselves as human beings, we're probably going to be pretty damn good at lacrosse. So let's figure that thing out. So Dion is always on my nice list there for just being a kind of a fellowship guy. Excuse me, Ivana Knoll, Miss Croatia. I mean, who doesn't love that? It's not football, it's football, right? We've all seen that commercial with David Beckham and Peyton Manning. Go Vols. But no, I mean, just bringing some love to the World Cup, especially in Qatar, which is just, I don't vacation there either in the summer, but good Lord, it was hot. Let's see. Oh, and I have an honorable mention. Do I have an honorable mention available here?
I just want to note that for the picture choice, I went with a more PG selection for her.
Absolutely.
But yes, your honorable mention also made the list.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So, and I appreciate the PG selection there because it's not about the skin. It's about bringing everybody together and kind of like a Deion thing. She's basically a Deion Sanders. I love that. So Grace Stanke, Miss Wisconsin, winning Miss America. Now, I didn't listen to her flute or orientation or whatever her skill was or anything else. I really don't know too much about her, but you know what? On Wisconsin. I mean, my buddies text me all the time, like, hey man, when you coming back to Cincinnati? The response is always the same. Never. You guys come on up here. We'll have you up on the farm, or we'll go break some clays or whatever. Come on up when the corn's high, and you'll understand what I'm talking about. There's great golf up here on Wisconsin forever. So great job, Miss Stanky. I think it's Stanky. I really think.
Either way, good. When I heard that Miss Wisconsin was she won for our nation, I was happy because we get that stigma that all we are is just a bunch of corn fed, but look at that.
Hey,
we have beautiful women in Wisconsin.
Beautiful women in Wisconsin. That's where I found mine,
Yeah.
We're not Croatia, but
yeah. We're no Croatia, but that's a whole nation, Yeah.
Hell yeah, that was a good list there, Steve. Love it.
Thank you.
Nick, what do you got, my man? Who made your nice list this year?
Well, I kind of alluded to him a little bit earlier, and then with Josh Jacobs, love you're doing a hell of a job, buddy. You're exceeding everybody's expectations. You're leading my fantasy team to a wonderful 7-7 record that made the semifinals. Love it. You're doing awesome. Keep doing what you're doing. Let's see another 35-point game this weekend. Need it. And you have earned that next contract. Whether it's in Las Vegas or not, you've shown that you can do it, and you deserve it. So,
and one comment on that, Nick. He kind of had a down week last week, so let's just hope that's going to be a trend this week. But going back to what Steve's talking about, Josh Jacobs, not only probably the fantasy player of the year this year, but also just an awesome human being.
Yep.
He's a dude you want to root for,
Yep, exactly. So I remember on draft night, so him and his dad, and I think maybe a sibling, they were living out of like their car for a while when he was in high school. So he's a humble man, and when he finally got some money, he bought his dad a house, and he's doing all the right things. And like you said, a good dude, having a really strong year, and it's a contract year. So hopefully make some serious bucks come spring. So rooting for him the rest of the fantasy year and just in general, just to him in general. And you know what, Dan, all of your running backs have had a down week here and there. So, and there's never a trend. Josh Jacobs is going to have a strong end of the season. So
Yeah,
rooting
in
for
week
you, buddy.
17 in week 17 and 18, he's going to bounce back and get that contract. But week 16, he's going to take a little off here.
Yeah. Well, next I'm going to go with a guy I was really high on, then getting down pretty low on, and then right back up there real high on, and that is Christian Watson. And then Dan added Romeo Dobbs. I'll let you touch on him a little bit later, but Christian, I was a little bummed with your early season injuries. I understand that they happen to everybody, but I was starting to get a little down on you, pal. But now that you're on the field on a regular basis, you're the most exciting Packer to watch on this offense. And I don't think that's even close. There's a close second. You could say Romeo Dobbs. Yeah, he's fun to watch too, but Watson is a touchdown waiting to happen all the time. So I'm excited that you're on my team, and I'm excited to watch you for the next 10 years or so in the green and gold. Dan, are you gonna save Romeo for your little bit?
I'll just hop on. I just saw the picture and I thought it was a cool picture when I was trying to find which ones to put on here. My frustration at the start of the season with these rookie wide receivers. Obviously, that was frustration building up from the past couple of years of not giving Rodgers more help. But I love what I've seen from both of these guys. I think the future is bright. Their confidence is up. Rodgers' confidence in them is up. And I love that Watson's playing well. I don't love it that I got to play against him this week, but I love that he's been blowing up. Dobbs looks like an every down guy. So I'm excited for Green Bay to have these guys for the next few years.
Hell yeah. So my third guy on the nice list is going to be another head coach, and I got to give this to Sean McDermott. A guy he's under the radar a lot, but out of his 5 years in Buffalo, and I mean it helps that he has a guy named Josh Allen playing quarterback, but he has made the playoffs 4 times. He's turned that franchise around. That's just kind of been in limbo for a long time. Really impressive with what they're doing, and he's got that tough son of a bitch mentality, kind of like what we see with MCDC and some other guys, Mike Tomlin, all that. They just seem like they're there. They love the guys. They fight for the guys, and I got to give this guy credit for holding this team together for the last 5 years. Number 4. We alluded to them as well or a little bit earlier is the Detroit Lions. I think they've done a fantastic job. They're doing everything the right way with turning a franchise around. They're hitting on their picks, unlike the Raiders. I was kind of bashing on our naughty list. They have a good coach. They have a bunch of good coaches, fiery guys, good young players. I don't think that they're going to be able to sustain the success because they have got a lot of personalities in the coaching staff and on the field, but they're going to have a good run at it in the next few years. But they're doing it right. They're doing it right. Unlike the Browns trading for a
losers.
Anyways, I'm going to close this out with the last guy on my nice list is Jake. My buddy Jacob. First of all, happy birthday to you. You are 30 today, as well as Steve. You just turned 30. It must be I'm getting there. I'm a little nervous, but I'm getting there.
You're
first
50,
off,
just saying.
Yeah, you've told me that before. But happy birthday to Jake. Also for letting me win. Not letting me, but me beating you the last week of our regular season in fantasy to get me into the playoffs. And then we had back-to-back matchups and we played the first week of the playoffs. Well, guess what, buddy? Beat you again. And you've told me to fuck off and that you hate me several times since then, but I love you. and happy birthday. And thanks for letting me move on to the semifinals while you are enjoying a fancy steak dinner tonight. So, Dan, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, I have to just kind of stay with my boys who have gotten me this far. I mentioned him earlier, one of my absolute favorite players in the league, Saquon Barkley. I love you, my dude. Also a great guy, a very high character guy like Josh Jacobs. He's a guy you want to root for. Comeback player of the year. Just love the guy. Saquon, let's keep rolling. Next off, also mention this guy, my guy, Travis Kelce. It's seriously a cheat code in fantasy, having this guy. Just feed him the rock. One of the funnest players probably to watch in the NFL. He is a top tier blocker. He is a top tier teammate. He's got a little naughty in him, but in a very professional and fun way. So love me some Travis Kelce. Another guy, don't have this guy on my team. We have definitely talked about him on the podcast, but this guy deserves a big shout out, not just because of the shitty situation and how we like to bash the other side of it, but this guy has been doubted every step of the way, and he has bounced back, and they wrote him, but he didn't write back. And that's Geno Smith. Another candidate for comeback player of the year, playing the best ball of his life. Also, I wasn't a huge fan of him coming out of college, but he's a guy you learn to like. I've had a lot of respect for him in the last couple of years. He was always spoken very highly of when he was a backup quarterback, of the personality caliber that he shows. And he's playing some great ball and throwing the ball to my guy DK. So, and then lastly, I just want to thank this person for all that they do for this podcast. And I wanted to leave that nice spot in the middle. Without this person, the podcast wouldn't be possible. But it's actually not a human, it's a dog. It's Obi. Nick, I don't know if you thought I was talking about you, but no. We have to put the nicest of boys on the nice list. And, Obi, he does his picks each week. He might not get them right, but man, it's fun to watch him. He delivers Nick drinks during the podcast when he runs low. And he has been delivering smiles and joy to all the girls and boys this season. So I wanted to wrap up the nice list with the bestest of boys, Mr. Obi.
Retweet. Amen.
Oh yeah. Thank you. And I will relay the message to him. I'm sure he will appreciate the extra pat on the noggin for that tonight. We do love our Obes here. But well, hey, this was an absolute blast. Steve, thank you. Dan, Thank you again. But I'm going to leave some last thoughts to you. Dan, why don't you start getting last thoughts, and then Steve, I'll have you take it away.
Yeah, I don't have much else. The podcast's just been really fun. I'm looking forward to our matchup this week, Nick. I've been rooting for you all season, family first. I am not rooting for you this week. I'm not rooting for injuries, but I hope your team absolutely shits the bed. I hope it's over after the first round of games on Saturday, and I can just talk shit to you all night and all day. I haven't talked really a lot of shit this season, other than maybe a little bit of Stu and a little bit to M. But if I beat you this week, you're getting all the smoke. So just so you know.
Yep, I hope you really enjoy being a 7-7 team there, Dan. But all right. Steve, any last thoughts before we shut her down?
Well, no, thank you for having me. We're in the midst of packing to go up north there before the big blizzard. So once I get off this thing, I'm going to be counting all my socks and underwear and everything else. So make sure I have everything. But no, this was an absolute blast. Super fun. You guys are great. I've always been a huge fan of Nick, and unfortunately, Dan, I'm a huge fan of you too. So I'm gonna have to keep coming back to Fond du Lac for the rest of my life for sure. But can't wait. The only closing thought I have is my message to the Steelers GM there. Please draft a left tackle. Please draft a defensive end. Dear God, Please, dear God, because we need to put some pressure on Joe Shiesty and those Go Tigers, So thank you guys again. Yeah.
Yep. Steve, thanks for joining on I know it was a little late notice, but thank you for coming on. It's been an absolute blast. I've loved hearing your inputs on the Steelers, being from Cincinnati, just everything in general. Appreciate you. Appreciate seeing you. It's been way too long. We need to keep in touch more often. But
Absolutely.
Dan, thank you for everything that you do as always. And Merry Christmas to all, and all a good night. We'll talk to everybody soon.
Love it.